Hey everyone, it's Justine and welcome to a new video tutorial. Today I'm going to be looking at this beautiful galaxy background created with Distress Oxide inks, and this is probably going to be my last Christmas card of the 2018 season, so just enjoy and sit back and relax. Remember, if you're done your Christmas cards, the galaxy technique is still worth checking out, even though you might not want to pair it with the same die that I'm using in this card video. I'm using Birch Press Design Nativity Star. Now this has a 4-part layering die, A, B, C, and D. However, I think a lot of these would work really well individually as well. This C would be a thick nativity star, B would work fine on its own as a thin nativity star, and of course A as this beautiful cross-like star. I find D a little bit thick for my taste if you're not doing the layering, but it works too. I'm also going to be pairing it up with a sentiment. Now this is the piece version of the sentiment that I'm using. It comes with these very thin letters, and then it comes with these thick ones with embossed layers in between, so you know how to line up the thin on top of the thick. I did end up switching out the word peace for joy because I found it a little bit too big. So let's get started on the galaxy technique. I'm grabbing my Distress Oxides in several colors. I'm using very bright colors at first. So I'm starting with Squeezed Lemonade, and I am making some circular areas on a piece of Nina Solar White cardstock, which measures 4 by 5 1/4. Now you're welcome to use any type of cardstock that you like. However, I find Distress inks work differently on different types of cardstock, so as long as it blends smooth, you should be fine. I'm now going in with my other favorite color here called Carved Pumpkin, and this one here is also great for a bright orange. I'm now following up with some Picked Raspberry, which is a very bright pink. And you can see I'm just putting random areas, and I'm not really concerned about any sort of harsh lines or anything because I'm going to be going over top of these with a couple of other colors. Now I've done this technique before with regular Distress inks, and I've done this with watercolor. However, this is my first time doing it with Oxide inks. Because Oxide inks work a little bit differently than your standard Distress, I'm a little bit curious as to how this is going to turn out. Because the colors seem to seep into the cardstock and sit on top because of their dye and pigment formulation, that I'm curious to see how these are going to blend together. I'm now going in with a bit of Wilted Violet in the purple, and now it's time to really just start putting on those last little areas to fill up the white space. So now I'm going in with some Lucky Clover, and I am going in just in circular motions again, just trying to fill in any of those white areas so there's barely any white left over. Because I'm now going to go in with my two darkest colors here and darken everything up to create that galaxy. And you're going to see how everything comes together because right now it looks like a hot mess. So I'm going in with some chipped Sapphire. Now I'm going to go over any sort of white areas that are still remaining, that are in between the colors. I'm also going to be going over top of many of the colors as well. I love Distress Oxides because when they go on top of each other, they aren't going to create muddy colors for the most part, so I can do this without really worrying too much about it. So I'm just darkening up the areas, adding blue here and there, again just grabbing those white colors, and now comes the most important part of the Distress Oxide Galaxy technique, and that is going in with the black soot. So I'm going over with the black soot, and I just put it warping you up in some speed here so that we get on with the technique. And I'm going to go over all the colors. I'm using a fairly light hand at this point because I don't want the colors to get lost behind it. I don't want it to be a solid black. I want to just darken everything up so it looks like a night sky. So I'm going to go ahead and start going a little bit darker around the edges now, and you can see how that galaxy is really starting to come to life, and you're going to see when we add a splatter of white just exactly what that does to the background. So I'm now going to grab 2 sprays from Altenew here. I'm going to try some pure white, and some iridescent. So the iridescent is going to give it some shine, and the pure white is going to give it the stars. It's important to shake it really well before using because you have to mix the pigment with the liquid. I also recommend spraying inside a cardboard box, but I'm being lazy. So I held it quite a ways up at the top of my surface, probably about 12 inches or 30 centimeters. And I'm going to do the same with the iridescent. I did go in and just add one more spray of the pure white as well, just to liven things up a little bit. But you're going to see how beautiful and bright white that is when it's finished. So I'm going to go ahead and add one more spray to that just to make that nice splatter here. I'm going to clean up my area here. I love working on my Tim Holtz glass mat because I am able to just use a cloth and some water to clean everything up. Now comes to the good part about die cutting. I'm going to set my galaxy off to the side and show you what I'm going to be doing. I am die cutting A, B, and C, and as well as D, and I'm using cardstock from Tonic Studios. So I am grabbing some gold cardstock in the mirror cardstock, some vellum, as well as some sparkly white cardstock glitter, as well as a matte silver. I was a little unsure at first how I was going to layer these up. The first time I look at them, I always think, oh, this might be complicated, but it never ever is with Birch pressed dies. So I'm going to lay down the thickest layer first, that right in the center of my cardstock, so I know everything's going to be centered, and it's the thickest layer, which means it's the largest amount of area it's going to cover. Now, when I noticed this, I looked and I actually noticed that they're all the same size for the layers B, C, and D, so that makes it actually really easy to line up. And I thought it would be better to line up the layer A, which is my gold and the thinnest piece here, on top of my layer B, which is the vellum, because I don't want any glue showing through on the vellum and I want to be able to see where I'm going to put my glue. So I layered the gold layer on top of the vellum as best I could here, and it is the same size in the end as the vellum, so it is the same. It's really easy to line up because you're just lining it up over the edges. So once I got that all settled in, I went ahead and I added some glue to the back of the gold panel here, which is layer A of the Nativity die set, which by the way is on sale right now at the Birch Press website. And I'm going to go layer that on top of the design here, and I layered that in the center. I'm now going to go ahead and flip over these 3 layers and add glue underneath the areas that you're not going to see. So that's a really important thing to realize, is that you're not going to see everything, so you can add a layer of vellum if you'd like. So I'm going in with this adhesive bond glue here that I really like from Thermoweb because it has a really thin tip on it. It's been a really big favorite of mine the last little while, and it comes in a really big bottle. It's easy to squeeze, which is good for my hands. So I'm just going to add these on top here, and it's all said and done now. I just need to add my sentiment and my card base. So I went in with that beautiful Joy die again, and I just poked it out using my Tim Holtz pick here. I needed to grab the background as well as the small letters that were die cut. And as I mentioned before earlier in the video, the silver piece that I just cut out has indents on it to show me exactly where the letters need to go. So spacing is super easy when I do this, and that makes things really quite easy, even though these are very intricate dies. Now that glue is definitely a godsend because of course it creates those indents, and it also has the really thin point, which makes it really easy to glue this onto my card. I'm overlapping the nativity star a little bit, ensuring that the point of the star, of course, is in the center of the O of my card. I think that's really important. So I hope you enjoyed the last holiday card of the season that I know of anyway. Be sure to check out my suggested videos here, as well as to subscribe to my channel and hit that small little bell so that you're notified when I come out with a new video. I'm going to have my top 10 videos of 2018 coming out very soon that you don't want to miss. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.